in the details that they just don't allow you to transfer. So with that, I will turn it over to Emma, who is specializes in operations, and she's been bringing a lot more of the AI automation flows to the team.
Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited for this topic because I love talking about Zapier and automations. And a little bit what I want to go through with everyone today is also how to utilize different forms of AI to help you build your automations and your Zaps. But I'd love to see if you guys can drop in the chat your familiarity with it, how many, like if you've used Zapier before, how much do you know about it? Like, you feel really good, you don't feel good at all. I'd love to see that in the chat just so we can none. Okay, because I'm going to keep this pretty high level. I'm going to show you a couple of use cases. I'm going to show you the interface, and I do want to make sure you guys know Zapier and Make are probably the two most popular third-party integration tools out there on the market right now. So if you see me doing this in Zapier, but you're more familiar with Make, it is probably pretty close of use cases. The interface is going to look a little bit different. But Zapier is the tool that most softwares will pay to integrate with, because then Zapier is in charge of, and their developers are in charge of maintaining the integrations, the code, and the development. So basically the tool is meant for making it really easy to do automations, because my background is not in coding. My background is not in tech. Like Nicole mentioned, I'm in ops. Okay, you've used IFTTT. Yes, I am familiar with that one. That is also a good one. So there's a couple different use cases, but it makes it so it's simpler for people to do these types of integrations without having to pay a developer or a coder or some other company to come in and build this for you. So it's meant to be easy. So let's keep it easy. And that's what I want to show you guys today. So I'm going to share my screen, and they are also beta testing some AI within, like most tools right now, they're beta testing AI within Zapier as well. So when you log in, this is going to be what your home screen is. Can everybody see my Zapier home screen? Just making sure, because I've done that a couple times today where I shared the wrong screen. So if anybody has a use case, well, after I go through the interface and kind of go through the features, if you guys have an example you want me to drop in, we can test out the AI beta, just so I can give you guys an example and a use case. But their beta, I would say, is still very much in test mode with their AI, because it'll help you with some problem solving. It'll help you muddle your way through the Zapier instructions, but it's not one for one, and it's not an expert yet, but it can give you guidance to get you on the right path. So that's just kind of Zapier's AI use case. So like, you'll give it a prompt of what you want it to do, and it'll pop out the Zap template for you. So you can start from scratch, which when you come in here, a Zap is automation.
Forward. Can I ask you a question? So if let's say we want to do a lot with Copilot, right? So we want to put in a lot of kind of automation with Copilot. But if part of our automation with Copilot requires us to connect to non-Microsoft stuff that doesn't have its own API, or at least, I don't know, Microsoft doesn't natively connect with, would that be the right tool for that?
Yeah, it is. We can even pull up an example too, if you want to maybe have one, like a use case example of, we want this tool in Microsoft to do this. So like an example would be, I worked with a nonprofit company. This was probably like over a year ago now, but it was before Copilot was really perfected. And I know that they were still developing their own internal version. Microsoft was developing their own internal version of something like Zapier, but it was still newer. But we utilized Zapier to integrate Monday and Microsoft products together, because they were using Monday as their CRM. and they're housing their deals and then also utilizing it for their grant writing processes and their project management, but then utilizing Microsoft Teams, Microsoft schedulers, and the shared drive. So
So that's exactly it. For us, we use all the Microsoft products, right? Outlook, Word, whatever, and Teams,
yeah.
SharePoint, but our CRM is in Zoho.
Okay, yeah.
So that would be our use case.
Yeah, so you can have those interconnect through Zapier because they've already coded it to,
Okay.
it's like the hub. Zapier becomes the hub for you. And we can even go down when you get into your dashboard, you can even poke around in some of the most popular templates or like browse all of them. Um, so you can
Oh,
get some good
they have
ideas.
integration with Copilot, it seems like Andrea has found,
Oh
but
yeah,
anyway, it's still
yep.
pretty good in case of, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we can definitely do a use case. I'm just gonna go through high level, um, like just kind of to get you navigating. So when you come into your dashboard, you'll see this, what's recently updated. You can go through, browse through some templates, but then on your navigation menu on the side, you'll see your zaps, which is where you can build them, connect pieces. They have tables, which I can click into. We don't have any tables in ours currently because we utilize a lot of so this was like a test. We don't really utilize this one, but you can utilize the tables within Zapier to store information if you're pulling data in from one app to another and then need to reformat it. So it can kind of be your translator or a data storage spot for you. So they have those use cases within Zapier. And the reason or the benefit is with a table versus a spreadsheet, it just allows you to have a little bit more control over your trigger or your action, which is when we go into a Zap, I'll show you what a trigger and an action is. They also have interfaces, which you can build out quite a bit inside of interfaces if you don't already have tools doing that for you. So if you don't have a form or some other pieces, softwares that you're already utilizing, this is where interface can come into play. I don't personally use their interfaces all that much because a lot of the teams I work with, they already have some type of software doing that function. So it's not as necessary, but it is available. So I'd like to mention that if you don't have it. They also are beta testing chatbots, canvases, which are the visual workflows, just to give you an example. So think Lucid Chart, think Miro. You can kind of start to build those out within here and then link them to your Zaps. I don't have any built in here. This is a very new feature. So that's still in testing. And then they have agents, which I already kind of pulled this up ahead of time for us to see how you can do this. As again, this is a very new feature within Zapier within the last couple of months with the rise of AI pieces. So you can kind of see what some of their agent use cases are, and you can kind of start to play around with it for yourself and test it out similar to a chat agent or other agents inside of other softwares. But like all the other tools, they're trying to get their hands in it and test it and build something out for their use cases specifically. And then you have your app connections, so you can see and connect all your tools. So when we go into add a connection and you hit search app, so you said like Microsoft, so we can see all the use cases and app connections for Microsoft right here. So you can see there's a lot of different use cases or a lot of different tools that can be integrated right here. And if you do have a team, if you're on a team, one thing I will say is making sure a lot of my teams will connect somebody's account to Zapier. And then if they shut that account down or they have some turnover, it can break your Zaps. So it's really good. Like we have automation at or info at logins for different softwares so that the connection won't break. It's a workspace owned. and it has admin level because that can be a limiting factor when you set up some of your apps. I just like to warn people for that. And then you can go in through your Zap history to see if there's an error, because it will email you if there's an error or a delay or issues, and then that'll help you pinpoint it. And that's another good use for the AI Zapier beta that they're testing, is having it help you pinpoint what the issue is. Because a lot of my clients come to me and they're like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know what the error it is that's giving me. So their AI will kind of help you pinpoint that, or you can take it to chat. And I've done that a lot of times, is when that's when I'll bring chat in, is, okay, what can I do to fix this? What is some code? What is some API? So that's kind of how you can combine the two together. And then I'm gonna just kind of walk through a very simplified version of a Zap that we have set up to show you. So your first action inside of a Zap is what they call a trigger. And then you have your action, and you can have multiple steps within your automation. So like our trigger is a new referral lead from Talkadot goes into what is called lead connector, but that's OS. Since OS is a version of this, that's how I connect it. And it'll add, update, or create the opportunity for me. And you can continue to have multiple events inside of your Zap. So I wanted to share what kind of apps are available, so it knows my top apps and what I use the most, or I can pin them to the top if I come back to them frequently. And then popular built-in tools I did want to share with the team or with everybody here on the call is the filter function, the formatter function, paths, and webhooks. Those are ones I use quite often with my teams because it'll help give you a little bit more control over the automations. And it allow you to have multiple different use cases. And when we were talking about this last week with the 4D method, the define part of it is where it's so important. Like, we want to make sure we're defining our processes, what we want out of it, what we want out of the system, and what we want out of the software, so that we can design this before we deploy it. Because you could have multiple paths or multiple different use cases to account for. And like an example of that, hop over. And if you guys do have questions, feel free to drop them in or like pop in. I know I'm going to go over high level, and I am going to leave time for you guys to ask Q&A, or we can go through an example together. So that's kind of why I'm rushing a little bit more on the basic intro functions, so that we can dive into it a little bit more. But an example of this would be the repurpose meeting notes that we're working on. So I don't want this running every time Reed has a new meeting note. So I'm going to add in this filter step to say, I only want this running for certain call notes based on the title. So I want to pull from our classes. I want to pull from our labs. I want to pull from like this type of call, pull out the frequently asked questions, and then run a command inside of Jasper that I've predetermined. So it's like, this is my prompt, this is my command, to have it rerun the data. And if you see that, it says no data because the testing data that I was using doesn't have a use case there. So technically when I ran this test, it showed me an error, but it was because there was no data in the test sample that I had. And that is because the test data that I was running would not have passed my filter. It would not have gone because it was from a call that was internal and not one of those use cases. And then to send it into ClickUp, I wanted to show you guys this because I wanted to show the capability and where the automations go from Zapier into the tool in some different use cases. Because if we have templates built out, if you have a template built out in your project management tool, you can start to apply that here. So that's where the integration then becomes next level, is we can trigger automations within other tools then. And that's where like the real fun and the real power begins, is you're going to create like a domino effect. with your automations and with your systems. So you can preset some of these custom fields that I have with living within that list. We could even pull from other steps inside of here. So if I hit the plus sign, I could pull additional content from read.ai or Jasper and pull it into those custom fields or pull it into another piece. And then you could also, if I'm scrolling back up because I totally passed template, you can apply task templates, which I don't have any living in that list currently because it was my testing list, but you could then trigger a whole nother series of events within, like ClickUp was my use case, but you could apply this to Monday, Asana, Bootcamp. There's various, so like those are just a few that come to my head. So you could trigger an internal automation just from, different use cases and then change the due date or create subtasks. So that's kind of where like the domino effect comes into play. So those are like a few basic examples. I can also share examples where it's like more of an onboarding approach. It connects to Slack. We utilize that one a lot where it's slacking us messages or notifications. But let me check the chat because I'm also not terrible at remembering to check the chat wherever it went on me.
Don't worry about it. We got you.
Okay. So if anyone has specific questions, or I have a few more examples prepped, but I do want to give everybody time to ask questions. We could even go through an example if somebody has one like top of mind ready. I want this to be more interactive than me just spitting a bunch of information at everyone. Or I'm happy to workshop something.
Can we look at the agents again,
Mm-hmm.
please?
Sure can.
I think
I've
this
actually
is.
haven't played in this a lot.
Oh, that's okay, because I think for me, this is a great place to go to look to see how I might want to use it. So if you're doing outreach, they are doing, looks like Gmail to, I can't tell what that symbol is, or customer sentiment analysis and all these different things. That gives me ideas on if I'm not zapping anything already, like what kind of things I could zap. And even if your tools are different, that's okay. It's just, a way to give you some ideas. So I think this is great that they've added this. And basically, it feels like everybody's moving to that now, the whole agent thing, even though this is different than an agent we would describe in like ChatGPT or something, it's still kind of set up for you.
Yeah, it's a similar concept. Like you have to give it the instructions, standardize. That's like the biggest thing I talk with people about is what you need to capture those standardized pieces to or make standardizations in your processes so that you can start to automate it and grab these different pieces of information going
I
from one
wanted
place
to
the next.
expand too on the one you already built for us in Jasper and why we're doing that one and what
this
the
one.
purpose is. So for
Can I ask a
this
question?
is,
Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just want to cut in. I'm really not good at typing things in chat. I just want to say it.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Okay.
Getting too old for this shit. Anyway, so the way that I was thinking about it, because we want to use, whether it's ChatGPT or whatever LLM with Copilot or with some other tool to make decisions, right? So the AI helps us make decisions, right?
Right.
But then I was thinking of using this tool to whatever the result is, to then have the workflow, the next step of that be, okay, send the information to some other tool that needs integration, right? So I was thinking of it as just a pass through, but a way to integrate. But what
Yes.
I'm seeing here is that there's a lot more than just, okay, using some smart AI engine, making a decision and just using Zapier as an integration tool only. You can do a lot more here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm trying to wrap my mind around Okay, that's what I thought Zapier is. It's just straight integration. You've got a lot more in terms of capability. So now I don't know what to do in like the workflows in Copilot versus here, right? Or,
Right.
I don't know. I guess it's
So
just it's not an informed question, it's a confused question.
yeah. Yeah. No, I want to give some guidance too, because that's a big, like, not that specific, but that problem comes up a lot of where do I put what? What tool do I utilize? How do I make sense of my software tech stack? So with that, it's going to be process by process basis and tool by tool. So it depends on what your end goal is and what your software capabilities are. So Copilot works really well, and Nicole knows way more about Copilot. So if I'm totally off base, Nicole or Andrea, please let me know. But my understanding is Copilot works really well with Microsoft products, but doesn't always work totally great with external products. So then that's where Zapier can help step in to feed the data a little bit better and or trigger external automations. I've even done use cases where the Zapier can trigger different automations than it could internally. So like one person, we set up it was such a weird workaround and a very niched in like use case, but we had a trigger from, I think the app was like Dubsado or Honeybook or one of those like smaller CRMs. And then we had the action be to trigger an automation in the same software because we couldn't even do it in the tool itself for some weird reason, but they had built in the code to Zapier, but not internally. So like that's a weird use case of you just kind of play with what works best together. And does it make sense to go external like this because you're using so many external tools? But if you're strictly Copilot or strictly Outlook products, but you're saying you use Zoho. So that's where I would say, yeah, you'd want to connect Zoho and Microsoft through something like Zapier or Make, because they can also do a series of events. Like, here, let me pull this one up. This is like a template one on my other account because I have a lot of templates on that account because I've been using it for so long. So like this is an example of a very long multi-step. I wish I had a path one to show everybody, but the paths I usually build that those are on client accounts and like I can't show that. So you can have a deal in HubSpot or any CRM, move to the onboarding stage. Then you create a folder, which you could do in Drive or in Microsoft, OneDrive, Shared Drive, depends on how you're setting that up. Create a folder template from your project management tool, create the channel. So this was like for a marketing agency. So we had channels in Slack based on our clients. So you could have a Teams one created. I actually think we did that for the nonprofit I was working on. We had them create a channel with the right people. So we pulled in, this one's not fully set up because it is a template and I just use it as like my test. But you could pull from the setup of who you wanted to add. So thinking through what tools do I need or pieces of information do I want to then use in later steps is really important because I can take anybody on that deal in HubSpot and pull them into this channel or pull in that contact information and share this Google Drive folder with them. I think no, not in this template. But you could add that in and you can start to pull from different layers within this Zap once you have the data through here. So then it's like create the channel, invite the users, send the message, update your deal to onboarding complete. And then this one's like send a handwritten card because the process was they wanted a handwritten thank you onboarding welcome card sent. And this tool makes it look like a handwritten written card was sent to them based on their prompt or notes above was how this one worked. So this is like more of how it flows together. I don't know if that answers your question or makes it more confusing, but it's about what do you need to pull together from your process. Again, going back to defining it first.
Sure. I mean, it does answer the fact that it can do so much more than just being like a single step transition thing tool, which is what I thought it was. So
Yeah, no, they've really advanced in the past year, and the canvases are really new. I actually want to play around with them more, um, because they have more capabilities than Miro and Lucidchart, because you can start to integrate things through those as well as you're defining it, so to speak.
cool. Thank you.
Any other specifics?
So possibilities are endless, basically, right? Just like with AI, but you have to think through it first. So I think that's why that define step is like the most important step, because you need to know what you need it to do before you start building. I would not recommend just jumping into Zapier and start connecting things if you don't really know what the outcome or how you want it to function is.
Yeah.
Although it's fun and you want to get it connecting and have it working, right? But you got to
Mm,
have that thought process first before you do that.
yeah,
Andrea, are
and
you
that's what
saying like I shouldn't go in there and connect all my apps until I have them like the right path created? I figured I could connect the apps and then go create
I
paths.
mean, you can, but it's going to be disorganized. You're probably going to have to rebuild it in different ways because you're going to want it to do different things. Just like Emma was saying, if you have it create a Google folder, well, then do you also want to share the Google folder with the people that were on the original call? In that other case was HubSpot. And then do you want to send them a note or make a Slack channel and add all the people? It's not wrong to do it before, but you're going to have to rebuild it. I mean, I don't
Okay,
think
but
you can
like
get away from
looking
that.
at Emma
you
here's her
can
list
connect
before.
the apps, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't just like go crazy making the zaps.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's probably where you could probably benefit from using the canvas here, is you could
Okay.
map it out ahead of time from the canvas, to define it and then start automating from there.
Yeah.
Because like
Okay.
we can even use one of these templates to throw it out here and look at this. Because I actually do a lot of this in Miro, where I like note which tool, but they're taking it now with their, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to move in this one because it's always different depending on like right clicking and selecting.
Emma, in the process of using this here,
Yeah,
will it actually build your flow for you based on this chart?
that I'm not sure because I've never built one out from here just because of habit. I've always just done it in Miro. So that would be an interesting thing to test because it has the interface or the software in here. Like
Yeah, I'm
reference.
wondering, like, as you think it out in this visual step-by-step process, which you'll need to do regardless if you're doing it here or Miro or wherever, um, if it could take your flow and just make it.
Yeah. I think that's what they're aiming towards too, especially with their
That would be
AI
cool.
that they're working on. They are aiming towards that. And with the right plan too, you have to
Yeah.
watch this. There are some limitations based on the plan. You can get started for free and get up to, I think it's 5 free zaps just to start playing around, and you can build them out draft style. And then once you go to publish them, you may need to upgrade, because I've definitely done that with setting up accounts. We will put them all in draft mode, and then once we have a few ready to go, we will pay for it, depending on like the time it takes for them to feel comfortable with the tool, I guess you could say. But if you have a specific like question, Ellie, on like what are you thinking, or
Yeah.
the use
I
cases
mean,
or test
I'm like,
scenarios.
so I have used Zapier before horribly. Like I never got over the hump of actually figuring it out. Literally to the point of we brought developers on the team in to help because we could not figure it out. So my experience was not good, but I see the potential. I'd like to be good at it. My question though, so I on my end here was like trying to create a Zap just to like think of something and start the process. I'm also locked out of a lot of my systems today, so it's not a good day for it. But
Oh no.
but I was trying to connect it to ChatGPT and I can't find, and I'm realizing the Zap I'm creating is like a fake one. It's not going to be one I actually use, but
Yeah.
I can't find the API code from my ChatGPT to connect it.
So we did ours through like login. I didn't have to use the API. So that's the other thing. Like different tools will have different requirements when you log in.
Okay.
So we logged in through, we just connected our chat through our login.
Okay, so I was trying to do it in a Zap, and I should just probably do it through
Come
app
to
connections.
app connections. That's always like I find that easier to do in connecting them through app connections here.
Seems like that way you may only have to connect it once instead of like every time you want to use chat in each Zap.
Well, once you connect it in one, it'll stay in your hub, so I can then pull from it again. But if it's like maybe I'm setting something up specifically for Nicole's calendar, I have to use her Google Calendar versus my Google Calendar that's connected. So there are use cases where you might have like a different person's account being used. Or like I use this a lot for our info calendar for our events. Like we just did one for connecting OS to the Google Calendar. So when somebody signs up or wants to be added to labs, it'll then send them the invite or like add them to the event in Google Calendar.
Okay. I did just go to app connections and it's still giving me the API as the only option to connect to chat.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's the free version, not the paid version.
I am on the free version of Zapier. Yeah. Is that why?
Probably.
I would guess
Okay.
that's why.
Yeah, that could be.
That makes sense.
But I don't, yeah, without sharing screen, I might not, I'm not,
It's
that's a
okay.
little bit
No,
harder to problem solve
that's okay.
that.
I think that's what it is, just based on what you can do for the different versions. So, yeah.
They should have some type of instructions there. Usually when they prompt you, there should be like a link either to where you need to go directly or instructions.
Yeah, I think I might be able to figure it out. I just wasn't sure if there's another way.
Do you want to screen share what you're seeing?
Sure. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna share my whole thing so we can go between. Okay, so it was this is what it was showing. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay, so it was showing this. I clicked create an API key and it took me here.
Yeah.
I haven't done that.
Do you have a paid ChatGPT?
Yes.